We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Saturday, and as so often the case, Ed is joining us. I know people are breathing a sigh of relief. They enjoy hearing from Ed and his wisdom and his years of experience. Ed, I haven't talked to you since Christmas, so how did things go for the holidays for you?
Pretty good. We had the families over for Christmas Eve. That's our usual thing, and that was great. Um, just kind of, get together and have a little food and talk over crap. So yeah, that was good. Otherwise, with the super flu raging, we and the factor that people around here don't wear masks. They don't get their flu shots. They don't do anything except spread disease. We're kind of hunkered down, be honest with you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you didn't go out on New Year's Eve. We don't ever
No.
go out on New Year's Eve.
They had a new thing here. They had a ball drop on the town square thing and fireworks and so forth. But since we're like a tenth of a mile from town square, we could enjoy it without going out of our house. So we didn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, we got so much shit to talk about. It's been a
Yeah.
while because we weren't together last week, so we got a lot to talk about that's happened since that time. I just want to bring something up. There's been a lot of talk about Donald Trump's health.
Yeah.
He's got bruising on both hands. He's fallen asleep in press conferences. He's had multiple MRIs, which doesn't mean good things. He's had
No.
multiple cognitive tests, which you don't normally take unless you need to. He's taking crazy amounts of aspirin, which is
Yeah.
ill-advised. But I just saw something. Somebody reported um, seeing, and this really made me happy when I heard this. Um, they were talking about what he has for dinner,
Yeah. I saw this.
and McDonald's was the standard fare, which we know, which everybody knows is pretty healthy. McDonald's, but you know what he eats in one sitting? He
Let me
eats
see if
a
I can go ahead. Go
He
ahead.
eats a quarter pounder with cheese, plus a Big Mac, plus a fillet of fish,
And fries.
plus fries, and a Diet Coke because he's watching it.
Well, as everybody knows, Diet Coke is worse for you than regular Coke for a number of reasons. But anyway, yeah, I mean, and this is why he's just doing it to piss me off. He heard that I said he'd be dead by Thanksgiving, so and he's toughing it out. And then I said Christmas, and he made it. Then New Year's, and he made it. He's just doing it to spite me. I think he's
I
dead already, and he's just, he's not quite rotted yet, and he's refusing to give up because he knows he's not going to heaven.
yeah, no shit. Well, I've often said he's like a cockroach. Every time you think he's done, he somehow rises from the ashes. And for the life of me, I don't know how he does it. Now, given how ill he appears to be,
Yeah,
um, I feel like every time he has a dinner like that, he's kind of lighting the fuse. And we're
yeah,
that much closer to what we're all dreaming of in the year 2026. Um, we've been watching all of that's going on, and um, we've got the healthcare issue.
yeah.
He's, of course, got the best healthcare you could possibly have. Uh, but Congress is coming back on January 5th, which is a couple
Mhm.
of days away. Uh, it's kind of the quiet before the storm right now because everybody's on fucking vacation in Congress. But when they come back, there's a lot of shit that's going to be going down. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the healthcare shit, the continuing resolution. This fucking month is going to be nuts.
Yeah, not only that, we just saw Lauren Boebert involved is now falling out with Trump because he won't give clean water to Colorado, a bill she sponsored apparently. So he's basically spitting in her face. So now she's on the outs with him. So it's crumbling. It's crumbling. Here it comes.
What do you think people are going to be more apt now that we're past the first of the year? We're approaching primary season. Do you think this is the point where we're going to see the mass exodus of Republicans going, I give, motherfucker, I'm done?
Well, it's the Lion King syndrome. if you will remember, Scar, the bad guy, who is based on Trump, at least I'm claiming that. At any
Yeah.
rate, I mean, he's very similar to Trump, right? He's a weasel. He doesn't really deserve to be king and so forth. And his henchmen are these jackals, right?
Yeah.
And what happens when he is finally weakened? The jackals turn on him and eat him.
Right. Right.
So that's what we're going to see. It's jackal
Yeah.
time.
It's jackal time. Well, and that's to be perfectly honest with you, I really believed the Republicans would start pushing back after the election, after they gotten what they needed out of him, and they realize he's a liability as opposed to an asset, that they would start pushing back. But fucking years gone by and they haven't. I mean, there's some that are, but there's
Mhm.
so many people that are sticking so close. I'm surprised that they're doing this. The longer they stick with them, the harder it is going to be to separate themselves.
Well, this is it. They're either going to leave or, I can't see. I mean, some of them are in too deep. I mean, how does Ted Cruz extricate himself? How does Lindsey Graham extricate himself? Mike Johnson, all of these guys. How do they how do they do that? How do they separate? They can't because they went all in, and they're always going to be tarred with that brush. I think it's very likely that some of them will lose their seats. I hope so.
Well, I'm hoping that we see some amazing turn of events come 2026. A lot of people unexpectedly losing their races. I was talking to Eric yesterday, and he was saying that there's one liberal creator out there that says, "Well, the Democrats will be lucky if they get 10 seats." I think that's ridiculous.
It
I mean,
is.
and what he was basing it on was 2024's election and how we thought this was going to happen and that was going to happen and it didn't happen, so it's probably going to happen in 2026. And I pointed out we're in a different fucking world than we were in 2024. Donald Trump was a memory as far as what he was doing to the country. He got his ass kicked in 2020. Then people forgot. But now we've got a year under our belts, going to be 2 years by the time they vote. People won't have forgotten because they're in the middle of the trials and tribulations that he's wreaked on them.
Exactly. And people are seeing, they're starting to see. My rent just went up, just doubled because somebody bought my apartment building and slapped a coat of paint on some stuff
Right.
and then doubled and this is housing is unaffordable. If you want to buy a new car, good luck. It's $50,000 is average for a new car. We've talked about this before. 8 years spread out over 8 years is becoming fairly normal for financing a new car. This is insane. It's untenable and it can't go on.
Well, and that's it. We saw it with the housing market in the early 2000s where anybody could buy a house and
Yeah.
everybody got, this is great. We all got houses. Everything's going great. But it's like anything economic. It can only go so far until it breaks. And, that's what we're going to see with cars. I mean, I've been hearing about an impending car crash,
Yeah.
in terms of sales and stuff. Um, we were talking about the stock market. We were talking about our investments for retirement. That's the one thing that's been really weird, and it surprised me that the stock market has continued to grow. I'm not sure why that is, but hopefully the Democrats are understanding. Just because the stock market is growing, that doesn't mean the economy is good for people on Main Street.
No, I mean, what happens with the stock market? Number one, guys like you and me are invested because the business we worked for or whatever had a retirement plan that we bought into. Your wife had one too, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Through the school district, we bought into that so that we gave them some money every month. They matched it, and now we're reaping the rewards of that, and it's invested in the stock market. So it goes up, we do really great. It crashes, we don't do so good. I mean, I saw 40% of my net worth disappear during the Bush years and during
right.
the Great Recession, 40%. Fortunately, I still had enough years to work that I was able to build that back up. I'm sure you suffered a similar loss
Yeah, we
during that
did.
period, but it continued to grow. And I call it the financialization of America. I mean, back in the 70s, the industry said, okay, we're turning off the switch in America and we're going to export everything overseas, first to Mexico and then other places. They did that. And that destroyed the labor unions and all of that. So the Democrats, looking for money, went to Wall Street just like the Republicans. And since then, it's been capitulation from the Democrats across the board. And we see everything they do to buck up the stock market, right? And when that happens, what happens? These corporations wreak this huge dividend, so to speak. And what do they do that? Do they invest it in expansion? Do they do anything? No, they do stock buybacks, which just enriches their investors, their big investors, and their corporate boards and corporate officers. So that's where all the money is going. It's a revenue suck from the bottom to the top. They're sucking all the money up and giving it to a small group of people. And that's what's going on here. And until that's addressed by Democrats in particular, because Republicans will never do it, that's what happens to happen. Number one priority, get rid of Citizens United so they can't pour money, can't buy elections, which is what they've been doing. There's no way Donald Trump should have been able to be elected dog catcher, much less president, if he hadn't had untold amounts of money that nobody was tracking. Dark money. That's what got him elected twice.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've heard they've how much money that Donald Trump has spent on golf in the first year.
I know it's about
$110
two.
million dollars.
That's what I was
Maybe
going to
it's
say,
more
over
than that.
100. It is more than that now. I think it's about 180, to be honest with you. And that may be overall, but it's at least 100 million and probably 110.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is I wanted to bring this up because you're a former citizen of Minnesota and probably a
Yeah.
future citizen of Minnesota. We've been seeing this attempt by the Republicans and Donald Trump trying to gin up this fraud thing in Minnesota
I'm
to
glad you brought it
distract.
up.
Yeah, they're trying to distract, and you got this 23-year-old kid um, who claims to be a journalist, and he's not. He doesn't know fuck all about fuck all, and he's playing kind of sketchy games. We find out that Lisa DeMuth, who is the Speaker of the House of the Minnesota State Legislature, was behind him going out, maybe funding him, maybe encouraging him, whatever. It's just a whole sketchy business about something that is probably 5 to 7 years old, and
Yeah,
it's
it was
already been
already addressed.
prosecuted. Yeah.
Exactly. And he went on YouTube and he went to various child care providers in Minnesota in the Somali community, and they weren't open. Well, you can actually see in one of them where it says the timestamp when he's there, and it's not supposed to be open yet. So, this is what he did. He chose places that weren't open and went there to prove that they didn't have any kids. It's totally bogus bullshit.
Well, and people ask why do you think he did that? And I think there's three reasons why he did it. First of all, to own the libtards. That's what they do everything for. Secondly, to distract from the Epstein files, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Definitely, definitely.
But but more importantly, I think one of the reasons they did it, he does a lot of things to give him an excuse to do something he really wants to do. And when this all came about, initially he said he was going to freeze child care funding to Minnesota. They said, "Fuck it, we'll freeze child care funding throughout the country." Now, I can't understand how Republicans think that's going to benefit them in the future. It's going to be People are going to be pissed about that shit.
I think that I have to believe that a certain segment of the Republican Party, conservatives in general, have decided this is it. If we don't do it now, we will never do it. So we're going to try to destroy everything that the Democrats since Roosevelt have done to make life better for the average person. and then we're going to consolidate our power. I mean, this building up ICE is not about catching criminals. We knew that. Number one, they're only getting people who work, for one thing, but
Right.
this is building a private army. I really think that there are some of them, at least, that want to make a grab. They want to make a grab for the government. They want to install an autocracy. There will be no more elections. They're really going for this. This is what they want to do. And Trump is listening to Stephen Miller, who is very much tied in with this group. Okay. Now, some of them are Christian nationalists. That doesn't affect Stephen Miller because he claims to be Jewish, but I can't see that, he has any sort of real religion. But he's at least, Jewish heritage, and so is his wife. But at the same time, they're about as Jewish as Netanyahu, who is,
Yeah.
beyond evil. All right. But anyway, losing my train of thought here. What they're trying to do here is destroy the idea of government regulation or providing any sort of relief of any sort. What they want is women staying at home, one income, and probably not even be able to vote. And taking away childcare pretty much guarantees that, or subsidized childcare, that one partner will have to stay home, or if they don't have a grandmother or somebody else who'll take care of the kids, or some other program. This is aimed at women. It's aimed at subjugating women. That's what it's aimed at. And the whole thing, there is the Project 2025 is the public face of it, but it goes way deeper than that. They really want to install this mishmash of religion and right-wing politics that is their dream, their wet dream, right? And that's what they're going for here. Maybe not all of them, but the Peter Thiels and the Elon Musks and people like that, and there are many others, of course, and that's
I
what they're
think
going for here.
I think we need to let people know, not to scare them about what's going on. You're saying they're going for all these things,
Yeah,
but given that they're on the descent, given that they're incompetent, the likelihood of them actually accomplishing those things like ending elections and stuff is pretty slim.
yeah. I think that well, Thiel is seriously mentally ill, and maybe
Yeah,
Musk too, for that matter. But Thiel definitely beyond the pale. But he's got a shitload of money, so that makes him dangerous. Elon Musk,
absolutely.
as his satellites fall out of the sky, also has a lot of money. Also has no ethics. So we don't know what they're capable of. We know. For example, like Turning Point. This is the Charlie Kirk thing, right? They paid to take the people that attacked on January 6th. They bust them. They
Yeah.
paid to bust them there. So did the wife of the Supreme Court Justice. What's his face?
Yeah, you're talking about Clarence Thomas and his
Clarence
wife, whatever the
Thomas's wife
fuck
was
her name
involved
is.
in doing with that. Yeah, they're all tied together. This is a very, very well coordinated effort to destroy democracy, and they're saying that out loud now. We need to destroy democracy because it's anti-American. They're actually saying that out loud.
You know, they may have strategized this and they may have a plan, but I think the real culprit here as to why they've been successful to this point isn't the intellect of Project 2025 or Donald Trump because they've been fucking up over and over again. I think the responsibility can be laid at the hands Republicans in Congress who have allowed this to happen, no matter how goofy, no matter how outrageous the shit is. I think these people would have failed a lot sooner and it would be over had the Republicans stepped up and done what's right and what's they're required to do by the Constitution. So we've got goofballs that are incompetent and the Republicans just letting them run rogue.
Absolutely. I mean, take Watergate for an example. Watergate worked. Nixon was removed because of Republican integrity,
Right.
because Republicans joined in. Howard Baker sat up there on the, along with Sam Erwin and other people, to prosecute Watergate. I mean, to impeach the president. This was
Right.
they had integrity. They went with it, and they took their lumps and moved on. Right, and that was the right thing to do. When the Republicans with Trump had a chance twice to impeach him, they chose not to, and it all falls on them.
Well, yeah, when this is all said and done, the dust clears, and people are looking for people to blame. It falls solely on the Republicans in Congress. They could have stopped this years ago. They chose not to stop it. And this is why we have what we have now. You brought up January 6, 2021. And of course, we had this subpoena going out to Jack Smith, and they questioned him behind closed doors. Now that we've seen the transcripts and now that we've seen the video, Republicans made a good choice of doing it behind closed doors. I think they were
Yeah,
going to try to catch him in something or try to
yeah,
get a clip that they could use to push forward their narrative. But once again, they fucked up.
yeah.
They fucked up absolutely because, and they should have known this. Jack Smith is a smart lawyer. He knew what the fuck he was doing. He's pretty straight edged and cut and dried, and he knows what he's talking about. So they have this testimony, and you didn't see the Republicans coming out screaming, oh, he said this, he said that. They didn't say much. And then they released the transcripts and the video. Um, and Jack Smith seemed pretty confident that Donald Trump
Yeah.
would have been convicted,
Oh, yeah.
uh, and that he was responsible for the January 6th insurrection. And they tried to push back. It did not work. For the life of me, I do not understand why they bothered to do this. They had to know that this is how it's going to end up.
I think that, you remember Trump was trying to prosecute him. So I thought they figured that would help.
Yeah.
They would grill him, they would rack him too, and it would contribute to his, the court filing against him, which was bogus and thrown out, of course. That was probably their motivation. He probably told them to pile on, do this, and they of course do whatever he asks them to do with very little pushback. There's a few Republicans, Massey and others we see stepping out because maybe they figure they'll survive that way. I don't know. Marjorie
Yeah.
Taylor Greene is resigning right after she gets her pension, and you'll see a lot of others doing that. I'm sure those who are eligible will be doing that, and it should be canceled immediately. Why should they get a pension? Fuck them.
Yeah.
Why should they get
Why?
health care? They all should have businesses, right? Congressman and senator is not, to me, should not be a primary job. It should be something you do on the side. And you shouldn't have to be in Washington all the time. Have Congress in session for 3 months out of the year, and that's it. Get it done.
Well, that was kind of the intention when
Yeah,
they created this government and the Constitution, that you be a farmer, you be a lawyer, you be whatever, you come do your time, you serve your country, and then you go back to doing what you're doing. People have turned this into a fucking career and easy way to make millions and millions of dollars, and that in itself shows how our form of government has been become tainted by wealthy folks and people that, I mean, they always talk about the welfare folks and the SNAP folks and all this stuff. There is no greater fucking welfare group than people in Congress. Motherfucking Republicans in the House of Representatives took 3 months off and they still got fucking paid.
it's worse than that. They worked technically 87 days out of the year, got $174,000 plus free health care, plus a pension, plus all they could steal. So show me a member of Congress who is not wealthy, and they will either be one of two things, honest or stupid.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The thing about it is I think the Republicans do anything Donald Trump tells them to do. But at my advanced age and your advanced age, I think we've all learned if we do something that doesn't work, we don't do it anymore. We do something
Yeah.
different. But Donald Trump and the Republicans tried to prosecute James Comey. Didn't work. Tried to prosecute Joe Biden or tried to interrogate Joe Biden. Didn't work. Tried to indict Letitia James 3 motherfucking times. It didn't
Yeah.
work. So what do? You bring in Jack Smith, which isn't
Yeah.
going to work. You
No.
would think the Republicans that are taking their marching orders from Donald Trump would say, you know, Donnie, this isn't working. We keep looking stupid. Maybe we should stop doing this.
Well, the thing is, what they're counting on is they now own all three broadcast networks, news departments, in some way or other. They have some sort of oversight person or something where they know that they will not be called out. I posted something on TikTok yesterday where I said I decided to change the channel every time a newscast repeated a Trump statement without context or challenge, and now I have a blister on my finger. And it's true. They don't delve. Sole exception, I had the chance to listen to NPR extensively when we were traveling, and I was impressed. They're doing still a pretty good job. And they do go in depth, they do ask the questions. So if you want to be informed, tune in NPR or your local affiliate. You will hear news. What you hear now is 90% puff, and then they'll say President Trump today said, but they don't qualify it. The old adage is, you know, if you're going to tell people the weather, you got to look out the window and see if it's raining, right? And then you tell them. You don't say it's either raining or it's not. It's not the Schrodinger news. No, we don't need that. We need facts, and they don't do that anymore.
No, they don't do that anymore. And I think they're kind of cutting their nose off to spite their face. Um, with what's going on now, people in mainstream media and the network news, they're losing viewers by the day. They
Yeah.
don't pull the kind of people they used to pull. And now we've got the millennials and the Gen Zs coming into their own. They'll be the top voters in 2028. Those people don't watch network news. They don't watch
No.
mainstream news. They see everything on apps or on the internet. And these people can do all they want, but I'm thinking that in 4 or 5 years, nobody's going to be watching them anyways. They're going to go the way of the blacksmith or bowling for dollars. Nobody gives a fuck about that anymore, and I think that's what's going to happen to the mainstream media.
Well, we had a watershed New Year's Eve. I wasn't aware because I hadn't looked at this particular cable channel in years, but MTV finally canceled all of their music channels. And they
Really?
signed off the same way they signed on with the Boggles, video killed the radio star. And there were some others where they had similar songs basically, but they're no longer doing music at all. It's all um, reality TV crap, right? Like so many of the other channels that remember when cable first came out, we had 100 channels. We had Discovery and the Learning Channel and all of these that purportedly tried to do something worthwhile. And then gradually they all were taken over by hillbilly hand fishing and ice road truckers and 10,000 versions of housewives and so forth. So we have dumbed down broadcast and cable so far that there's no one with any intellect has any reason to watch them at
Well,
all.
that's the one thing we saw it in radio. We're seeing it in radio, and we'll see it in TV too. Uh, Back in the old days when you and I were on radio, you'd have local stations, you'd have local people doing the announcing and all the stuff. And then they don't care about programming or locality. They just hook up to some national computer system or satellite system and they just run it. It's basically Muzak on a lot of fucking radio stations. That's
Yeah.
why radio stations are dying. They abandon creativity, they abandon programming just to make it simpler and easier to make money. And eventually people get tired of watching that shit.
Yeah, it was like my mother had kept the local radio station on. uh, as long as it was on, it was a daylighter, so it went off about the time TV was picking up. But at the same time, um, she didn't care about the music. They played primarily, they were pretty much MOR when I was little, and then they went straight country eventually. But she didn't care about the music. She just wanted to hear what was going on locally. And you don't get that anymore.
No, you really don't. My wife listens to a morning show that's very popular in Minneapolis, and it's supposed to be a sports station, but they don't really talk that much about sports during the morning show. And it's my wife will just sit and laugh at it, and she go, "Don't you think this is funny?" I go, "Yeah, it's funny, but I've heard it before." I mean, listening to radio stations is, for me to listen to a radio station is akin to a guy who worked at a restaurant and then going back and saying the food's good, but you know how it's being made and
Yeah.
what's going on. I don't find anything very compelling in radio anymore. There's nothing. There used to be. I used to love radio when I was a kid, and
Mhm.
I think television is becoming that too, especially now that everybody's bending the knee to Donald Trump, and we've got news stations putting out everything but the truth, or at least a variation on the truth. And people realized after the 2024 election, you can't trust them. And if
Mhm.
you've been a news person, if they can't trust you, you ain't a news person anymore.
That's right. And when I was a news director, I had three primary sources I checked with on everything. And if they were in agreement, I went with it. If there was disagreement, I tried to pick out which one was right and went with that. I took the wire copy that was sent to me by the
AP,
AP. I was trying to think because I had UPI too at various places,
yeah.
but AP. And then I would rewrite it. I would anything that I thought was coloring it, I would change that adjective or delete it and so forth and try to make it straightforward fact. And I spent a lot of time doing that. And I think, I was part of an organization that got together every couple of months and invited guests in and to ask how we were doing and so forth. And they all did pretty much the same thing. And I have to say that even the right wing station at the time, which was a Hubbard, product, they carried Rush Limbaugh, but their news department played it straight. I give them credit.
Yeah,
And the
yeah, they
same thing
did.
with the local Fox affiliate. Robin Robbins, remember, was the lead anchor. They played it pretty straight too. I asked her, "How can you work for Fox?" She was a black woman, and she said, "They leave us alone. All we have to do is when American Idol is on, we have to run a promo. That's it. Otherwise, they leave us alone."
The station you're talking about that was right wing, and I worked there in the early 80s, KSTP.
Yeah.
It's been a long time TV and radio station in this country, maybe one of the first in Minneapolis, but um, it was very right wing, and it was a talk radio station at the time.
Mhm.
Uh, and we didn't really differentiate between right and left too much way back then because we didn't get involved in politics. But I'm remembering some of the national talk shows they had on there. They had Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
They had Dennis Prager, who was a
Yeah.
fucking goof. They had Laura Ingram, who's a
Yeah.
fucking goof. And I never really paid much attention to them at that point, but they were kind of building the groundwork for where we
Oh
are
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I didn't pay that much attention to it. But people with the internet and with apps and all this stuff, these younger people are far too hip to be sucked in by this ridiculous shit. I mean, there are some that will, but
Mhm.
I think we're in for a massive sea change in media in general. I mean, I was hearing about Rob Reiner dies, and they had the last show of the series on. They had 41 million people watch it. MASH, similarly, too. You had 20, 30,
Yeah.
40 million people watching that stuff. You know what a hit TV show on the networks is now?
Mhm.
3 or 4 million, like 10% of what they used to get. So that tells you where we're headed in terms of network television.
Yeah, we don't watch network at all anymore.
I don't either.
We stream various. We go back and forth on the streaming services that we keep. We'll something coming up we want to see, we'll buy in for that long and then dump out and go to something else, And watching the end of Stranger Things right now, finally wrapping that up. But we watch a lot of that kind of stuff, and we still watch a lot of PBS stuff too. But no, we tuned into this. Luann, I think her name is. It's a waitress thing and kind of on TV. She happens to be from a small town very near to where I'm sitting right now, Bean Station,
Yeah,
Tennessee,
that,
right?
that's a Southern comedian.
Yeah, and it's god awful. It's just as bad as Alice was in its heyday. I mean, and Reba is now. It's these Southern stereotype crap. And I mean, I see very little else. I mean, how many different NCISs do there have to be, or what's the other one? And Law and Orders and all that crap. I have no
Yeah.
interest in any of that crap because that's what it is. It's formulaic, melodramatic bullshit.
Well, I watched some of the old sitcoms and they were really funny and they're not funny now. I think people have become, I hate to say this because it's true, but it's not true. People have become more sophisticated when it comes to entertainment. They want more real life things. I think the reality shows are starting to wane now too. I mean, they've worn out their welcome. They're beyond their expiration date. That's why I'm saying we're going to see a sea change in media. I I remember I worked at a radio station. I didn't work for them. I did a show, a sports talk show on WWTC, and they were playing 50s rock and 60s rock. And then on a weekend, I do this sports show. And I went to the general manager. I said, "We'd like to do a sports show. What would that cost to do that?" And he said, being a brilliant businessman, he says, "Oh, I tell you what. How about you do the show and we just split the the spots?" I said, "So we get to do it for free?" He says, "Yeah, we just get to sell spots on it. And you sell your spots." I said, "Okay." Selling spots on it was a fucking pain in the ass and
Yeah.
for because you had no audience and shit like that. Well, they had a new GM come in and he calls me up and he says, "Mike, I heard about the deal you have." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "You've been in this business for a while and you're a smart guy. You understand why we can't do that anymore." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Besides,
Mhm.
we got a brilliant idea for our AM radio station." Now, it's always been understood that with radio stations, weather is an important feature. So he decides he's going to go 24 hours weather. I go, "Dude, that's not going to go well because people are going to come in, listen for 3 minutes and go away, and you're going to have no fucking ratings." "Oh, no, we believe it's going to go well." Well, they did that. And surprisingly, it didn't go well. But that's what I mean. People are going to be scrambling to try to almost narrowcast in broadcasting because they've got nothing else they can do with that fucking media.
Exactly. My hometown station now is mostly syndicated crap.
Yeah.
Um, they have this thing they call Swap Shop, which is on in the morning, and there's someone on the morning trying to be a disc jockey and failing miserably, and then Sunday is 15-minute segments of right-wing preachers back to back to back to back to back, and they do local sports, which is their only revenue producing engine, just like in every AM station in the entire world, right? But yeah, we actually worked with a couple of people who worked at that weather station, as I recall. But yeah, one of
Well,
the dumber radio things ever.
the only the only other dumber thing, well, when I won't say dumber, but close to dumber, that very same station previously to that did Disney radio, all kids
Uh,
stuff.
yeah, Oz, Radio Oz, and they couldn't use OZ. They had to spell it AAHS, and they
Ah,
basically played dumb kid songs. I knew some people who worked there too.
Well, and that made sense too, because people love their kids and they'll turn the radio on for the kid. No, they won't.
No.
They won't. They won't fucking do that. But that's what I mean is now that they're in a position where they're not making any money, they're losing audience every day. You've got all these media outlets that were very valuable for many years, radio stations. To buy a radio station would be crazy. Now I gotta think that they aren't as valuable because you can't generate the money you used to be able to generate. Um, so I think we're going to see the mainstream media change dramatically if they want to make money. And I think there'll be a lot of silly fucking strategies out there for them to do that.
Yeah, news in general has gotten really hard to find. And it's not
Yeah.
just radio and it's not just TV, it's also newspapers. For example, my hometown newspaper, when I was a kid, they employed about 20 people. And guess how many they employ now?
Who?
Two. Two. That is, and it's they did two weekly, it was a bi-weekly. Well, when I was a small kid, it was once a week, and then it became a bi-weekly. But it was eaten up with coupons and all of that that people used and so forth. And there were columns and so forth that, talked about local crap that people really liked. And if you wanted to know what was going to happen, you went to the newspaper, and it was usually there. It's not the case anymore. It's all syndicated crap from somewhere else, and most of it right wing, and none of it's any good, and nobody really buys it anymore. But it was bought up by this company that out of Minnesota, actually, that just does that. They bought up all of these small papers, and I'm not sure how or why, how they're making money or why they're doing it. Because I can't imagine, even with the syndication money, that it actually turns a profit. Now, granted, when you only got two employees and you're not paying them much anyway, it probably doesn't take much to do it. Maybe they use it as a money losing thing, like WKRP in Cincinnati was for a bigger corporation. But I don't know. I don't understand it.
I want to talk about the ACA a little bit because this is impending doom here.
Yeah.
The subsidies are gone as of January 1st. They're
Yep.
gone.
Hmm.
At this point, the premiums will raise to crazy levels, 100%, 400%. I mean, to the point where people just won't be able to afford them. And this is going to be devastating for, just a couple people, 24, 25 million people are going to either be cash poor or just won't have health care at all. And this is a devastating situation for Republicans because there's more Republicans that use the ACA than Democrats. But the Republicans refused to extend the subsidies in spite of the fact that it's not more money, it's not new money, it's just keeping going what we've been going. Continuing resolution would suggest that you continue to do that, but the way it was structured, it ended on January 1st. So now Congress is coming back January 5th. By the time you hear this, it's January 3rd, so 2 days. Monday they come back. Okay. What are your thoughts about the Republicans doing this? I presume that the House will pass it, but the Senate has already passed on it. This very same thing, this 3-year extension. So, do you think, like the child care and like everything else they're doing, that the Republicans are going to let everything burn, knowing that they're going to lose in 2026?
Yeah, I
Do
do.
they care at this point? Do you really?
I do think they're going to let it all burn unless there's a real revolution. Unless while they were home, they had people outside their door yelling at them about this. Maybe there might be some sort of revolution. What I'm hearing from Mike Johnson right now, and the Republicans in general, is it's the Democrats' fault because they shouldn't need the subsidies if the Affordable Care Act were actually affordable. Now, there's some truth in that, but the lie is that they weren't involved with putting it together. They backed out. I know because my home senator at that time was the negotiator, and they just said, "Okay, we're stopping. We're not going to negotiate anymore." He thought they had a really good deal working out to put this through with a public option, which would have made all the difference. But they didn't. So they were able to get it with a few Republican. I don't even think they got Republican votes. They got it with the Democratic majority. They got it through. And then we had COVID, which was when those subsidies were put in place, by the way. And we haven't technically recovered. And the reason we haven't is because of the insurance companies. They're the ones who keep raising everything. That's why subsidies are needed because private equity keeps buying up healthcare, right? They do that, and uh, they cut service, raise costs. So what might have cost you a procedure might have cost you $1,000 5 years ago now costs you 15,000, right? So
Right.
yeah, this is why the costs have gone up because the healthcare companies are run by people who are only interested in money. I looked it up. Um, Death statistics in emergency rooms owned by private equity, 13% higher.
Yeah.
Um, Pharmaceutical prices, I just saw they're raising prices on 300 and some different
350.
medications that,
Yeah.
yeah, that everybody uses. That's because pharmaceutical companies are being bought up by and drugstores and so forth being bought up by private equity firms whose only thing is profit. How can we squeeze profit out of this? Not how can we serve people, not how can we have better healthcare outcomes. How can we squeeze another 2 pennies out of this? Because that adds up. We see that in the grocery store. It's the same thing. You know,
Yeah.
they keep. I saw a story the other day where you may be in a different line with somebody and pay a different price at the same grocery store because you're pegged into this he can afford it group. And this
Yeah.
is going on. And
I,
it's the business model for places like Family Dollar where they have one price on the shelf and another price pops up at the register.
right. Exactly. The, that kind of grift is going on everywhere, and people are being taken advantage of. The Democrats want to get the ACA subsidies extension passed, right? But I'm not so sure that they really care that much. They'd love to see it crash and burn because they
Yeah,
think it'll help them in the midterms and in 2028. The whole
that's
child care
all.
thing,
And
you
we
think people be screaming about that shit.
exactly. And this is what I'm saying and what I've been saying for some time. And I lay a lot of it at the feet of Bill Clinton. And not just Bill Clinton personally, but the whole Democratic Party during that era. We had Reagan coming in and he's destroying the unions and he's doing all of this bullshit. And they look and say, well, we can't get money from unions anymore. We got to go to Wall Street too. So we'll give them what they want and one hand washes the other. At least we'll be able to compete. What they should have done was lock arms with labor and fight back, but they didn't. They capitulated, and that's what keeps happening, and it has to stop. Democrats and the progressives are saying this. The Bernies and the IOCs, they're saying this. We have to be progressive. We have to be proudly progressive, and we have to do it now.
Yeah. Well, do you think people are looking at if the healthcare thing crashes and it's devastating and the Republicans get their ass kicked? Do you think Democrats are looking at this as a easier way to make universal health care more palatable in 2028 when they have control?
I wouldn't put it past them, but in the meantime, a lot of people have to suffer. I do think that universal health care and a universal basic income are things that Democrats should be pushing, quite frankly, because quite at this point, like I said, it's a revenue suck from the bottom to the top. This big, beautiful bill they just passed raises taxes on people making less than $15,000 and people making less than $30,000 more than anybody else.
Yeah.
So
And that
they're
makes
sucking revenue.
Well, they're not only doing that, they're sucking revenue, but they're cutting safety nets too.
Exactly. At the same time. And
Yeah,
they're
I mean,
raising prices.
yeah, and if you've got people paying more taxes. That's less opportunity for them to pay out of pocket for child care and health care and stuff. You're basically crushing them to death. You're basically, which clearly seems to be the strategy for the Republicans. Just
And
crush the poor people.
this is what I'm saying. They have decided to go all in for that. Why do you need undocumented workers if you can make people so poor that if they want to eat, they have to pick cotton
Yeah,
or
yeah, exactly.
vegetables? That is what they're going for here. It's the old idea. Remember, or maybe you don't remember, but when I was a kid, the Kentucky coal fields were still they had these little towns that the coal companies built, and they owned all the housing and everything. So the workers lived in the housing and they charged them rent. They had stores where the poor people, where the miners had to shop because they kept all the other stores out. So they had to pay whatever they wanted, and eventually they would usually wind up owing a lot of money, so they couldn't leave.
Right.
They were living in company housing. They were buying from the company store and they were locked in. They were nothing more than slaves. They had no choice, right? It wasn't until the labor movement got hot and Franklin Roosevelt and the Democrats bought into labor and says you have to allow unions, you have to do this, and stopped the coal companies and the other industrialists from murdering labor organizers, which they did, and murdering strikers, which they did, many of them. And so that created that window, 1943 to 1973, essentially, or 1948 to 73, the one window where average people could build wealth. And the main way they did it was through buying a home, which
Right.
appreciated, right? And now what is private equity doing? They're buying up private homes for say $300,000. They'll go in and outbid private Blackstone just or BlackRock just did this with 50,000 homes. They go in, they buy them, they pay more, they freeze out other people because they're willing to pay more. They did this with 50,000 homes in this one area, right? And then they sold them back to themselves for 800,000. So they automatically increase the value of the subsidiary they sold them to. They automatically increase the value of all the properties, right? So they made shitloads of money by freezing people out of the housing market. And they continue to do that all across the country. They do it with trailer parks too. They come in, they buy the trailer park, and they raise the rent so high people can't afford to live there. So they abandon the trailer and then they resell it to somebody else. This is what's going on, and that has to stop. Democrats need to stand up and say, this stops now.
That assuming the Democrats get control in the House and the Senate in 2026, and assuming we maintain that and we get a Democratic president, how do we fix all this? I mean, it's got to take forever to do it. I mean, this what they're putting onto people right now, it can't be just like flipping a switch. It can't be that even the strongest Democratic president, strongest Democratic Congress can fix all these things quickly. I mean, they can shut down all of Donald Trump's executive orders pretty quick, but the damage those executive orders has done to the economy and to the people of this country, it's going to take a long time to fucking fix this shit.
Bernie and Elizabeth Warren have a list of what needs to be done. And all the president has to do is follow that. And one thing is get rid of carried interest because that takes away the incentive for private equity and for hedge funds because they're not taxed on that. Tax the
Right.
fuck out of them. See, what people forget is as soon as Ronald Reagan became president, they stopped enforcing antitrust laws. And the
Right.
Democrats, unfortunately, went right along with it. The laws are there, they were passed, they're on the books. They just need to be enforced. And yeah, then Wall Street is not going to give Democrats money anymore and there's going to be a lot of dark money that's going to be and they own the news network, so it's not going to be easy, but it has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to think that over the next 3 years, there's going to be some dramatic changes to our government because there's going to be a lot of people that are suffering and struggling and dying. Um, the Republicans obviously are a shit show and they're going to be destroyed. But the Democrats are just as culpable in a lot of this shit. It's almost as if we have to take our form of government and change it completely.
Yeah, and I'm for
Just,
that.
just, yeah, I'm for that too. But what would that be? I mean, is it something other than democracy, or is it like Mondami in New York, democratic socialism?
I'm a
I don't
big
know.
proponent. I'm a big proponent of democratic socialism. Absolutely. We were already there, quite frankly. We were
Yeah.
already a democratic socialist country and had been. They're trying to turn back the clock. Beginning with Roosevelt, that was a done deal. You know,
Well, so
we stopped being a purely capitalist, cutthroat country and became somewhat of a democratic socialist country. Nobody knows what these words mean. They yell communist. Nobody knows what that means. I mean, nobody. Smart people know, but most people aren't.
well, and the thing about it is so many people are identified as certain things. Russia is communist, but they're not really communist. It's, you
Mm-hmm.
know, what do you say to somebody that says, "Oh, you want to be a democratic socialist? Socialism is bad. Socialism is like communism," which none of that is true. But
No.
how do you explain it to them where they fucking understand?
Well, they don't want to understand, number one. So you can't
Yeah.
explain something to someone who doesn't understand. It's been proven that conservative brains are different than liberal brains. Conservatives are fight or flight only. They don't have cognitive ability. So you can't really it's like explaining to your dog why they should come in out of the rain when they think it's just fine. It's your dog, as we both know, both our dogs are very, very intelligent dogs, but they're still dogs. And they can't internalize that. They want somebody like a Trump who's going to do everything for them, and they put their trust and belief in him. And once that's there, that's it. They go on belief, not on thinking, not on cognitive ability. They can't take two things and decide which is right based on evidence. They don't know where to look for evidence. They just want somebody to tell them what to do. And I will do that. I will be glad to do that, but they won't listen. I could tell them that communism means that the people control the means of production. That's what communism is. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with anything else that they always throw at it. That's pure communism, what it is. There's never been a pure communist state because almost
Right.
immediately it becomes a dictatorship, quite frankly. And we don't know anyway. Look to the Nordic countries, and most of Europe. You'll find socialism very much a part of there, and they are all very happy and richer than we are. Their healthcare outcomes are better. Their birth outcomes are better. Everything is better. Yes, they pay much higher taxes, but they get a lot more.
Well,
We pay high
exactly.
taxes and we get jack shit.
Well, that's exactly right. People say, well, we can't afford to give people this. Then why are we paying taxes? If we
Exactly.
aren't getting something in return, there isn't a return on investment. It makes no sense financially to continue paying. As much as Donald Trump brings in all this money, we aren't realizing it in our tax bills. We're not getting anything in response. I was talking about the idea of changing government, and I think the single scariest day to all Republicans and some Democrats was January 1st when Zoran Mondani was inaugurated as the mayor of New York City. Just one mayor, just one little town, but that's freaking them the fuck out. Republicans don't like him for a number of reasons. He's an immigrant, he is Muslim, and he's talking about giving people back money and not the rich. The Democrats are upset too because it goes against their Democratic establishment because they're in bed with the oligarchs too.
Yeah.
And they see this as a significant moment in time. This is why they were all fighting so hard for him to lose. but they failed. And I think that's a good sign of things to come, especially with 2026 coming up.
Right, and this is, this is why, I mean, he did well across the board, right? Or he
Yeah,
wouldn't be mayor, right?
right,
But
right.
this is where all of this anti-immigrant sentiment is coming from. Number one, if you live in the United States and you're not well, hell, if you're a Native American, they
Yeah,
immigrated here too, just a way earlier than most people think. But you are a descendant of an immigrant if you live here.
absolutely.
And just because uh, someone got here last week and someone got here 300 years ago, there's no difference. You didn't deserve to be here. You managed to make it here some way or other. Maybe you came um, as a indentured servant, your
Yeah,
ancestors. Maybe you were emptied out of the prisons in Britain and sent here. That certainly happened in Ireland and other places. How you got here doesn't matter. You're still a damn immigrant, okay? And the strength of America has been immigration. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid here in this town, um, you couldn't eat Italian food. There was no pizza. You couldn't eat
yeah,
Mexican food. There were no tacos. You couldn't eat any kind of ethnic food because it wasn't here. You could get Chef Boyardee in a can from the grocery store, which was god awful, but we didn't know any better. Or you could get a pizza kit, which was god awful and smelled like vomit. But that's just one small thing. And people, they always suppress the contributions of immigrants. Go to my TikTok. And I have a story on there right now about my father, and I'm just going to share it in brief here. He was in the combat engineers in World War II, and what that meant was when everybody charged ashore, not only did he have to carry a rifle and shoot, but he also had to build roads and so forth so they could move troops around and tanks and all of that. So it was he landed along with his fellows and the combat engineers on Lady Island, and they found the Japanese dug in with machine gun nests set up, just peppering the beach. So they were pinned down, they couldn't move forward. And then this guy, they hear this bulldozer coming, and it's this guy they called Pancho. I'm sure that wasn't his real name. He was a Mexican who barely speak English because we drafted undocumented workers in World War II. He could
yeah.
barely communicate, but he could drive, as my father's words, he could drive a bulldozer like nobody's business. He raises the blade and he charges the machine gun nest, and he flat rolls right over them one after another because the bullets can't get through the blade. And they fall in behind and go through, and it's a successful landing because of this undocumented guy on a bulldozer, his innovation that helped them defeat the Japanese there and help keep my father alive. He was wounded later and sent to, off, evacuated to Hawaii. So he never knew what happened to Pancho or if he, but during World War II, they offered enhanced naturalization to undocumented workers who would enlist, but they also could draft them. And they did. And because of that guy, my father's probably was alive so that I could be in existence. So we don't teach that kind of history. They only talk about how bad immigrants are. And it's usually a lie because every immigrant I know in this town has a job. Some of them own restaurants, some of them own gas stations, but they're always working. And if ICE goes to arrest somebody, it's always at work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always at work. And one thing to note, we drafted illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants in World War II. That is the last fucking war we won.
Yeah.
It's just, well, do you think that Republicans are finally getting worn out or tired by Donald Trump's bullshit? Because with his declining cognitive abilities and his physical abilities, he's really doing some crazy shit right now. I mean, he's saying stupid things. We've had him. Everybody screamed about not being sensitive enough about Charlie Kirk being killed, but then we have uh, the situation in Hollywood and Donald Trump calling him out,
Rob
uh,
Reiner.
Rob Reiner, and
Oh, and the Kennedy
something.
family. The Kennedy family just lost one, and he ragged on them as well.
Yeah, and the Republicans seem to be fine with that. That's the crazy thing about it is they have a very double standard for everything. You can't complain about them. I'm just going to tell you right now, they're going to be terrified when Donald Trump finally chokes on his his quarter pounder, Big Mac and fish fillet. When he goes down for that, there is going to be dancing in the streets, and the Republicans are going to be so hurt that we have the audacity to be glad that their Lord and Savior has passed away. But it's going to be akin to New York on New Year's Eve and Mardi Gras put together. It will be that fucking crazy, and it will be worldwide too.
Well, I got just one thing to say about the Kennedy family. Schlossberg was the woman, I think, right? Is the woman who
Right.
died. Um, hey, Teddy, how can you work for this motherfucker?
Yeah.
Mr. Health and Human Services Secretary.
Okay. Yeah.
He just ragged on your family. You just lost someone who I assume you knew, who I assume you had good relationship with, and here he is ragging on your family. What kind of a piece of shit are you? I mean, I already know. You may be impaired in your thinking somehow. I don't know, but that's no excuse because you're doing damage. People are dying of measles. It's because of you and whooping cough and everything else. And the super flu is going to be really bad on people because they're assholes who won't wear a mask, will go everywhere spreading the germs, and won't get a flu shot. Not that it will have help that much this time, but uh, you can't defend your own family.
Yeah.
It just exasperates me. It makes me want to slap him right in the face.
Well,
Uh,
well, well, the young lady that died was Carolyn Kennedy's daughter.
yeah,
And it's interesting, Carolyn Kennedy's son has been on TikTok and now he's running for a congressional seat and stuff. And apparently Carolyn's not too excited about that, given the
yeah.
track record with her family and how they've been received as politicians. But Donald Trump, um, the thing with Donald Trump is he just says whatever comes to mind. He doesn't think about how it looks, how it sounds. He just says some crazy shit. And from what I hear from Democrats, they say behind the scenes, the Republicans are just appalled. They're talking shit about him. They laugh about him, but they do not have the courage to step up in front of the TV cameras and admit that. And that's so disappointing that our representatives that are supposed to represent us are absolute fucking cowards. They're just fucking cowards.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, props to James Woods. Not a guy I like very much. He's been a
Yeah.
right-wing mouth for a long time, but he stood up and said, Rob Reiner was a stand-up guy. Nobody else would hire me. He gave me a job and so forth, and that Trump was wrong to do that. At least he did that.
Yeah.
So I give him credit for that. That's courage when you have when you're going to alienate a bunch of people that follow you because you're going to take on Trump. So I give him that. I still don't like him. Still think he's wrong about everything, but I give him props for doing that.
When we're talking about Hollywood, Hollywood always has an impact on politics. They shouldn't. These people aren't the greatest people in the world. Uh, Donald Trump apparently is fighting with George Clooney now because George Clooney stood up and talked out against Donald Trump. But I still have problems with George Clooney because of what he did with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
My point is that you're a fucking Hollywood movie star. So fucking what? Make a movie. Don't get involved in politics.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what about if I'm a plumber? Should I not get involved in politics? I mean, if my job, I still have political ideas, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah, but a plumber doesn't have impact and the platform to influence a lot of dumb motherfucking people.
Yeah. I don't know. I think everybody should have freedom of speech to say what they want. I didn't appreciate it at the time. I didn't appreciate Clooney talking about Biden, but after I saw the debate, I said, "Fuck, Clooney's right." They gave him
Yeah,
the people around Joe Biden should have said, "Joe, you may be sharp, but you don't show it. You
yeah,
know, you cannot project the kind of strength people want in a president. Open the convention. We'll come up with somebody. Thank you for your service." And that's what should have happened.
yeah.
So,
Since we're talking about the arts, and the arts are fairly important in your life as an actor and all the things that you do, we have this Kennedy Center thing going on. Donald Trump tacks his name onto the Kennedy Center, and then there's quite a fallout. There's
yeah, everybody's
eight,
canceled that I know of. You know,
everybody's canceling. They didn't have anything for Christmas Eve like they normally would. They didn't have
way to go,
anything
Chuck
for,
Red.
yeah, they didn't have anything for New Year's Eve either.
No,
People are falling out, and then of course the one of the upper level folks at the Kennedy Center uh, is saying, "Well, we'll sue you for $1 million." Yeah, good luck with that, motherfucker.
yeah.
You're not suing anybody. And secondly, when all this goes down, ticket sales go down. People are canceling because Donald Trump put his name on the Kennedy Center. What does Donald Trump do? Donald Trump doesn't back off. He doubles down and
Lowers
he
the
says,
prices.
well, he lowers the prices, but he also says, I'm thinking about taking the Kennedy name off it and just having it at the Trump Center. For fuck's sake. I mean, here's I don't know as much about the Kennedy Center as you probably do, but it's had a, there's a lot of respect for the Kennedy Center, and a lot of things have happened that are pretty impressive there. And he's taken it and turned it into a juke joint,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, he has no taste. All you have to do is look at the Oval Office, and you'll see the level of taste of Donald Trump. You know, if he can't spray it gold, then he doesn't want it. And he knows that most artists hate his guts because they see through his bullshit. So
Right.
that's why he wanted to do the Kennedy Center. And you know, he'd like to make it. He'd like to make Washington Trumpville if he could. I know he's eyeing some other things. He wants to build a stupid triumphant arch. Well, you got to have a triumph before you build a triumphant arch. That's just the way it works. Dumb shit.
Yeah, no kidding. So this is failing, and he'll tell everybody that it's the greatest ever. Um, I'm curious as to what he's going to try to rename another place. I'm sure he is. He's talking about. Well, didn't they say they closed the FBI building?
Yeah, I think so. They want to try to sell it off or whatever. You know, it may need it. I don't know, but
But who's getting the money? We keep talking here. We hear about tariffs. We hear about selling things off. We hear about investments that aren't really investments in this country, but nobody's seeing the money. We aren't seeing a drop in the fucking debt. We aren't seeing cuts in taxes. Somebody's getting the money, and it ain't us.
well, number one, there's nowhere near the amount of money that he claims. He always claims these $1 trillion, and there's not even. I think they figured that over 10 years it'll be something like, if the tariffs stay in place, which he just canceled some others or for a week or two anyway,
Yeah,
on
furniture or
furniture and
something.
stuff. But it ain't rolling in the way that they claim. You know, it's projected and this and that and the other. But fact is, the debt's going up.
Yep.
The money that he gave to the soldiers was already appropriated and was going to be given to them. He just slapped a name on it and took credit. So that was not tariff revenues. That was from money that had already been appropriated for housing and so forth. I looked the other day, and the actual receipts that have come in, so to speak, uh, are nowhere near. I don't even think they're 1 trillion yet.
No.
So
It's like 100 million. It's like
yeah,
125 million or something.
yeah, and so that's nothing.
Yeah.
He spends. What did he spend on golf? 110.
110 million, I heard. Maybe it's more than that.
Yeah. So no, there's not this boom in revenue coming in. There's number one, there were already tariffs there, okay, in place that have been there for years.
Right.
So he raised them, he did this, and then he lowered them, and he took some off, and he put some on. And it's been so chaotic, probably nobody really knows an accurate figure. But no, it ain't working. And now he's talking about canceling income tax and all of this stuff and these gigantic tax refunds you're going to get because no tips and nothing on Social Security, which is all bullshit. It's you have to do like that's cash tips for one thing.
Yeah.
The other tips that you receive, if somebody pays with credit card and you get that's still taxable. It's all bullshit. None of it's going to happen. It's like his healthcare plan that was always coming up in 2 weeks. 2 weeks we're signing a healthcare plan, you know,
Yeah.
and even Johnson is still, well, we're the party of taking care of healthcare because we have all these ideas. Well, fuck you. You got no ideas. You got nothing. Shut
Well,
up. Go away.
well, the thing they passed in the House, their
Yeah.
plan, which
Uh-huh.
was basically put together with tape and duct tape, basically would save the people in this country 11% on their health care. Well, a
Hmm.
lot of good that does when your health care is going up by 400%. It's a joke.
Yeah, exactly. And well, what was it? It was going to be like a $1,500 or something like that to pay co-pays and that kind of crap. But I know people that need procedures right now that can't afford them because of the copay, right? But they can't
Yeah.
afford the insurance now either, so it's a wash. So it was stupid. It's just stupid. It's a way to kick the can down the road and hope enough people die that you don't have to worry about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they killed 1 million people in COVID and they didn't seem to blink a fucking eye. But the
Mm-mm.
whole 50, the whole thing, we'll give them $1,500. I know of a couple who pay $500 a month for health care. Their insurance is going up to $2,000.
Yeah, yeah,
So
they
that
can't afford.
$1,500 will help them month one. But
Yeah,
what about the other? If you're going to give people cash to buy their own health care, you're going to have to give them $1,500 a fucking month
exactly.
in order to
Exactly.
take care of them.
And what about rents? I mean, the rents are doubling too. Everything is going up along with their healthcare costs. Their groceries are going up.
Yeah.
And believe me, I looked at it before COVID. I was paying about $70 a week for groceries. Me and my wife, right? I finally broke $200 for a week's groceries a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
This is how much things have gone up because we essentially buy a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
So I can tell you it went from 70 to 200, more than doubled, almost tripled.
And that's a
That,
hardship on you, but you can do it.
yeah,
For other people, it's an impossibility.
absolutely. I mean, I have a pension, I have Social Security. My wife has Social Security. We have tax deferred savings and so forth. So we're not going to starve tomorrow, right?
Right.
We were able to pay cash for a new car. We're not starving here. But I have relative. I know I have a niece who's going to lose childcare for her son because of the affordable. She won't be able to afford the insurance through the Affordable Care Act for
Well,
her
what does somebody
toddler.
like that what does somebody like that do? I mean, what does your niece do when she can't afford childcare or health care? I mean, that's
Well,
devastating.
well, it is devastating. And what she will do, and I'm sure what will happen, is that her mother and father will, subsidize. But there are many out there who won't have that, who
Right.
won't have that familial background that would take care of her.
How long does it take for people to go, fuck, it's really hurting me now? I mean, do they have to be absolutely devastated before anybody, whether it be politicians or the people of this country, to go, okay, a fuck enough? It's silly that we've gotten this far already. Because, I was talking to Eric yesterday. I really believed And I was foolish to believe this. I believe that in the 2024 election, the overturning of Roe v. Wade was enough to sink the fucking Republicans.
I thought
And
so too.
here we the fuck are. So what's it going to take for people to realize, hey, we're getting fucked here. We can't do this anymore?
I don't know. Maybe that will play a part in the midterms, but only if people bring it up. I mean, here where I live in Tennessee, I mean, nothing is going to make any difference along those lines because they drank the Kool-Aid. I mean,
Yeah.
99% of the people here guzzle that shit. Oh, Trump is great. Trump is great. God sent Trump. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, one thing I got to share. I just saw this the other day, and I have to say it. J.D. Vance. He became famous by writing a book called Hillbilly Elegy, right? Well,
Right.
it's bullshit, most of it, but the new nickname for him is Hillbilly Vanilli. I think that's perfect.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
It is funny. You don't hear much about JD other than if he's going to.
Divorce his wife and marry, what's her name? Kirk, Erica Kirk.
Have you seen? Did you see the interview that was supposed to be a big deal on CNN with Erica Kirk, and it took a shit as far as viewership.
Yeah.
But I saw cuts, little bits and pieces of that. That is a weird bitch.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
something evil about her.
Oh yeah, and there are people who think she had him off, and I'm not sure that's not true. I mean, I try not to go too deep into conspiracy theories, but sometimes they're true. And there, as you say, there is something wrong with her. There's something bad wrong with her.
Well, yeah, there's something definitely bad. We know she had a connection to Donald Trump
Yep.
prior, with one of the pageants. We know she went to Romania
Yep.
to work with kids, and then kids started disappearing. She
So they
wasn't
booted her
prosecuted for
ass.
anything, but they kicked her ass out of there. So they were concerned about something. She's this attractive pageant winner, and she marries some fucking goofball who might even be gay, um, according to some people. He marries this guy, and it seems like it's all kind of a plan. She also has some connections to Israel,
Yeah.
which it all sounds very conspiracy theory type, but conspiracy theories years ago, people would say, "Oh, that's bullshit." There's so much crazy shit going on here, you don't know what to believe. I mean, I'll give you an example. Donald Trump has an assassination attempt. He's alleged to get shot in the ear, right?
No
What
scar.
no scar. And we now find out for 20 years he's been taking 4 times the amount of aspirin he should have taken, and
Yeah.
he has thinned his blood, so he should have bled like a stuck pig if he actually got hit.
Yeah.
Now I'm more convinced that that was fake blood because it there is no mark, and there would have been a lot more blood knowing he's been thinning his blood to extreme amounts for fucking 20 years.
Exactly. I've seen a lot of stage blood in my life. That was stage blood. Sorry.
You think so?
Oh yeah. I think he had a packet where you see him slap his ear.
Yeah.
That's when he did it. He knew it was coming. The whole thing was staged. If you watch the outtakes, that as soon as the shot goes and he's covered up by the quote Secret Service, there's a flag on what do you call them? It's a thing they raise and lower to chop trees down and shit. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah, yeah. They call it a cherry picker.
Yeah, they lower the flag into the frame, and guys move the photographers around to get the best shot. That takes place. That is not false. That actually happened. You can see it. So
Do you
they
think we
knew.
ever find do you ever think we ever find out about what really happened? Because there's a lot of sketchy things about that. And the Charlie Kirk thing is pretty sketchy too, because we don't know much about the shooters in either situation. We're not hearing about prosecutions or investigations or anything. We don't even know if the guy they got for shooting Charlie Kirk actually shot Charlie Kirk because the video they have doesn't suggest that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are a problem with that whole thing. And both of these things come around a time when Donald Trump can benefit publicity wise when he needed some help, like the
Oh,
assassination attempt. Do you think we ever find out what really happened?
only if the Democrats pursue it, and I don't know that they will. I mean, I can tell you the squeaky throne shot at Ford and
Right.
Sarah. Well, who was the other one? Sarah something. I know that
Sarah
much
Good.
anyway.
Sarah
Yeah,
Good, I think.
yeah. And then there was Lee Harvey Oswald who shot Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. We know all of these guys. We can tell you who did it. I don't know the name of the guy who supposedly shot at Trump. I don't
No, I
know
don't
the
know his
name
name.
of the guy who shot Charlie Kirk. It's not in the news. It's not pursued like it was.
And that is such sensational news. You would think it would be all over the fucking place, and
Yeah,
it's
we would
just
know
not.
about his third cousin twice removed. Well, he was a loner. None of that happened. None of his relatives showed up on TV that I ever saw.
No,
Nothing.
no. Now, um,
None of his high
a
school
lot,
friends. Nothing.
not a thing. And now we've got the Epstein files. That's been kind of in a lull since a lot of this stuff has come out. There's a lot of weird shit coming out. There's the story about being on Lake Michigan and murdering a baby. There's a limousine driver that heard him talking about abusing women to Jeffrey Epstein. Or at least he was mentioning the name Jeffrey. That comes
Then
out.
there's a new
That
one. There's a
yeah,
new
go ahead,
one
tell us.
where he apparently he settled with a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old who were working at Mar-a-Lago for some unnamed amount of money to shut down a lawsuit by them. And that's
Right.
in the Epstein files. I firmly believe Trump was up to his eyebrows in
The
Jeffrey
business
Epstein's
part of it.
business, a business partner, maybe even the chief business partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it is there's another lawsuit in there, another bit of information that suggests that Donald Trump was running a similar type of situation where he was sending girls from Mar-a-Lago to Jeffrey Epstein. And this
Yeah.
lawsuit calls into play uh, the people involved, and they say it's Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates. Now that sounds almost crazy, but with all the things we're hearing now, how crazy is it? Like you say, Donald, people are thinking, well, Donald Trump went down there and participated in this big Jeffrey Epstein thing. Too much money involved. No way Donald Trump does not want his taste, and I would not at all be surprised that he was part of the whole business plan. And I wonder if that's not what he's more worried about than diddling kids, because I think Republicans think, it's cool. They're 13, they're 14, they're 15. They should have known. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I think this goes so much deeper than people know. And the reason I think so is because they always project. Remember Pizzagate and all of that, and Hillary Clinton is running this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was to throw people off. We'll say it first, and then if they come back at us, it'll look like that they were trying to get ahead of it because they knew it was going to come out.
That's a stupid thing, though. I don't think I'm a mastermind, but I've been in situations where if I'm doing something wrong, I don't want to talk about it at all. I don't want even an idea that it's possible that it happens. That's why I think for them to project like that and say, "Oh, those guys are doing terrible stuff that nobody ever thought about until they fucking brought it up." It just seems stupid.
Nobody said they were smart.
No, that's true.
And
We're
who
getting
are they aiming at? They're aiming it at the great unwashed, the MAGAs, the people that worship Trump. Oh, well, he said there was a Pizzagate, so there was a Pizzagate. So all of the Clintons and all of those people are pedophiles, blah, blah, blah. When in truth, all you have to do is pick up the paper or go online any day of the week, and you will see a Republican operative of some sort whether it's an elected official or somebody involved with the Republican politics or a coach or something like that who's right wing, who's diddling kids
Yeah.
every day, every fucking day.
We're coming to the end here, and I just want to ask you one last thing that I happen to think. Um, when Donald Trump is no more, when he's dead, fingers crossed on that, when he's dead or out of power, the moment he's out of power and he's no longer a threat to anybody else, there's going to be a flood of negative shit about Donald Trump. Not only
Oh
about the
yeah.
Epstein files, but the he's not going to be able to control it anymore. He's not going to be able to intimidate people, and it's just going to pour out. And then it's all of a sudden going to be the hot, popular thing to do to expose Donald Trump, because that'll be the hot, sexy news, and he will be his legacy. I mean, he'll be a fucking pariah forever. He'll make Richard Nixon look like a fucking angel. But do you agree with that? Once he's done, this stuff is going to pour out like a fucking dam breaking.
Absolutely. And I hope it washes away everything that Republicans have done since Reagan, that it becomes a tsunami that washes away Republicanism from the face of the earth, that it destroys everything that the Republicans have ever fucking done because it's never benefited anybody but a few oligarchs. That's the Republican brand.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. You got other shit to do.
Yeah.
You're retired, but you're busy as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. I don't know how that's possible, but you are.
Yeah.
Um,
I've been working on it.
tell folks where they can find you. If they haven't found you by now, I'm a little disappointed, but tell them in case they haven't.
Well, my TikTok thing of handle is Reelin, Realin apostrophe Reelin in the years at
Holler Troll.
Holler Troll, HOLLERTROLL on TikTok.com.
All right. All right. Be sure to check out Ed. You'll be entertained, you'll be informed, and you'll be a better person for it. So that's what's
Yeah.
important. That's what's important. For those of you listening, thanks for taking the time. I hope you have a great day. We will talk to you again tomorrow.